Hey everybody, welcome to another segment of Recovery TV.
Today we're going to talk about 5 pillars of recovery to build success.
So you don't want to miss this, so stay with us. Hello everybody, we're here today to talk about these 5 pillars of recovery success. But before we begin, we want you to subscribe to our channel and ring that bell so that you can get more notifications as we post videos to our channel.
Right. Well, let's start talking about the 5 pillars. And we're going to start with the area, of course, that we know the best, and that is individual and or couples therapy.
That's right. That's the very first pillar. You've got to have therapy involved in this, and I know that's difficult for some people to do, but it's very important. And so when we're working with couples that are in recovery or individuals in recovery, if that individual is in a couple relationship, then we got 3 entities that we're treating.
Right.
So the individual addict, the partner of the addict, and also the couple relationship. Mm-hmm. And you need to make sure that all 3 of those entities are getting the proper care in therapy.
Right. It's important for all 3 of those entities to identify the patterns around their addiction or obsessive compulsive behavior. It's important for them to identify where they come from, how they impact others, and how they are even spreading outside of just those 3 entities too, perhaps to other relationships. And that really takes work with a trusted professional that you can give enough time and someone well trained to do that kind of work.
Right. And so that's your place to start. Start with finding that quality therapist that is trained in the specific issue that you're dealing with, so they can help you develop your recovery plan.
Right.
So the next pillar of recovery is group therapy. Not to be mistaken for a support group, which we'll talk about in just a minute.
Right. Group therapy is as Josh likes to say, a magical experience for most people who are in a good group run by a facilitator who knows what they're doing. In group therapy, you're going to first of all walk into a room with people that are struggling with the same thing that you're struggling to overcome. And it's a real relief. I would say that the feedback we consistently get from people who go through group therapy is how much it changed them to just be in the space with somebody that was struggling with the same thing. So having the ability to talk about that and work through relevant material as a group.
Exactly. Groups is one of my favorite things to do in our practice, and we run several groups here, particularly in the realm of sexual addiction treatment and porn addiction and things like that. But it is such a powerful experience when you're not feeling really good about yourself and you think that you're just the scum of the earth, and you walk into this room and then you see a bunch of good people that are struggling, and then maybe that means that you're possibly or potentially a good person that's also struggling. So it's a very empowering experience. So group therapy is very important. We did a video on the power of group therapy and the magic of group therapy. We'll put a link to that in the description of this video, so make sure you watch that.
Right. The next pillar is what Josh mentioned just a minute ago, the support groups. Support groups are often 12-step groups, so groups like Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, other
Sex Addicts Anonymous,
right.
Celebrate Recovery.
So you can find those in 12-step communities. Oftentimes we have a lot of really active church, like he's mentioned, Celebrate Recovery groups through the religious institutions that are pretty well attended in this area. And so support groups are different from therapy groups that we just mentioned, but they are important. One of the biggest differences is that they are peer-led and not led by a trained or facilitated by a trained therapist. Right. And so it's that whole idea that we are a community and we're just helping each other, right? One of the steps of the 12 steps is to give back. And so you go get the help and you give back to others.
And a lot of times people will start with the support group, and that's okay, but they often find it not very helpful when that's the only thing that they're doing.
Especially early in recovery, when you're really trying to figure this all out. It's a good start, but we encourage you to really look at therapy in addition to the 12-step.
But definitely an important element. So the 4th pillar for recovery success is accountability. And so the great thing about the first 3 pillars that we mentioned is that accountability is built in to those. If you're having to go to your therapist appointments and talk to your therapist about what's been going on, and then talk to your support group and your group therapy, there's definitely accountability built in, but there's more that needs to be done in that realm.
Right. There are specific things that you want to identify. You need to define what is a relapse. You need to clarify and identify what's a slip. And you definitely need to identify within yourself and in a relationship, what are the boundaries, right? Kind of what are the things that, because, we're entering into a new realm of being in this world of recovery, what are the things that we just have to change?
Right. And these are things that your therapist should help you do. This is very hard to do, I think, for someone who is trying to do this on their own, because it's just hard to see the forest for the trees sometimes. And that's one of the benefits of having a trained professional to help pull you outside of that realm and take a look on it, kind of like a helicopter view in a way, so that you can see the patterns and know where to intervene on those. So additional accountability is definitely a very important should be a part of your plan.
Sure, absolutely. And that's also one of the big pieces in 12-step communities as well, right?
Exactly.
Sponsorship, someone you can reach out to, people that will help you in those moments, and that should be identified also as part of your boundaries.
Exactly, exactly. So the 5th and final pillar for recovery success is psychoeducation, because information is power.
Right. And it's really, really important to understand that while sometimes struggling with an addiction can feel very isolating, it's a very shameful experience for many, and because of those feelings you can think you're all alone, you're the only one, that this is really a question of morality, and we need you. We believe very much that getting that information will help you actually recognize that you're not alone. That there, as Josh says, is a science behind what's going on. There's a science behind how to get better.
Right. And so what we'll do also in the description part of this video is I'll put some links down there of good psychoeducational material in different areas of recovery and addiction, at least to give you a place to start that process and read more about that. Because when you can read about yourself in these often researched, empirically validated studies, and some of these researchers that have put these books together, then you can see that there's a science behind that. And when there's a science behind the addiction, there's also a science behind recovery. And that should give you hope. Right,
absolutely.
So those are your 5 pillars for recovery success, but we want to give you a bonus tip real quickly. When you're thinking about putting all 5 of these things into play in your life, can often be overwhelming, right?
Especially if you're at the beginning of, starting your recovery journey. You want to get better, you don't really know how, and you're watching this video and you're thinking, I'm barely hanging on. That's normal, especially in the beginning. And so what we want to encourage you, of course, is to remember that you just have to put one iron in the fire at a time.
That's right. You start somewhere. Our encouragement is start finding that therapist and let them help you build the rest of this. But if you try to put all 5 irons in the fire at one time, you're going to get very overwhelmed, and that's usually when people drop out. Right.
That's when they they kind of abandon the journey. And remember that one at a time is all you have to do. That's all you can do. And that starting one, it does build really organic momentum for the others.
Exactly. And that's one thing that we do in our practice. Carrie and I operate a practice here at Family Solutions Counseling, where we work with addicts and putting together these plans, and we have a team approach to doing that. And so it's very important that you find someone who knows what they're doing, that specializes in the area of struggle that you're dealing with, and so that they can start putting a plan like this in play for you, so that you can so it can help you stay focused in your recovery. Because when you lose your focus, that's when you typically fall off the wagon.
That's why we describe these as pillars, right? Because they're things that build you up.
That's right. They build on one another too. All right. Well, we appreciate you being with us for another segment of Recovery TV, and we hope to see you back here next time.
Thank you.
Thanks.